And welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast with the background conversation of Bob Stewart, letting us know there's something going on in his house. Bob Stewart, how you doing?
My windows are really clean, Chad.
They sure are. You are lit up in that home office there, Bob Stewart.
Inside, outside, all the windows are clean. It's that time of year where in Washington State, it might rain for weeks on end, which is essentially what it's been doing here to us. We've got bad flooding, record high river levels, like all this like crazy flooding here in Washington. But it's also the time of year where every once in a while, the sun will peek its little nose out. And when it does, you see the results of what's been happening over the last 3 months, right? And so there's just, your windows are dirty, rain's been pouring sideways here forever. And so this is about the time of year where my wife's like, I can't stand looking out these windows anymore. So I do, Chad, in the background, have some gentlemen moving around through the house, cleaning windows.
Folks, here's what I promise you for 2026 from the Win, Make, Give podcast. I will turn the recording on earlier than Bob thinks so you can catch some background conversation maybe leading into the welcome. Now we'll see.
Yeah, you tricked me on this one. Like when I came in the room, it was already recording, which is, I think, the first time you've ever done that in 5 years to me, by the way.
Well, I waited until you were in the room, hit the button, and then you decided to tell me about the guys in the background.
I didn't recognize you hit the button. Okay.
We are here. We're hoping everybody's is having a wonderful holiday season. You might be into January already. It might be December. Who knows when you're listening? You might be listening to this in May. For all we know, we just hope whatever season you're in, it's a good one and that you have clean windows because according to Bob Stewart, it matters. Bob, there's an issue that I believe a lot of people have. I've seen it a lot around people I coach with, people that I get the chance to work with. Bob, I've even seen it on the pickleball court. And that is people who are playing not to lose versus playing to win.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's the aggression that comes with playing to win. And then there's those people out there who are just like, I'm just going to make sure I don't lose, right? I might lose, yet I'm going to play not to lose. Bob, I don't think that's the way to go. You might. I don't know. Let's find out as we have the conversation, as today we talk about playing not to lose versus playing to win.
Look, if you are
that changes it all.
If you are a sports fan,
yes,
there's no question in my mind that when you close defense, it,
right?
100%, like 100%, every single sports fan in the history of ever, when your team goes into the prevent defense, you're like, what are we doing? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Like, this is a bad idea. And they're doing what? They're playing not to lose as opposed to like literally every time you're like, why? Like the entire game we've been playing our regular defense and they can't score on it. And so now we have a big lead. Now we're going to change the way that we're showing up on defense. That's the one that just jumps out to me, Chad, because you did mention your pickleball court and you're seeing it there. To me, Absolutely. It's the prevent defense. And all I had to do was say, if you're a sports fan, you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Every football fan yells at the TV when the team goes into the prevent defense mode. Same thing on hockey when you've got the goal, and you're just kind of sitting back. You're going to give up the goal in these situations, folks. Playing not to lose versus playing to win. Look, most people don't think they're playing small, Bob. They don't say, oh, I'm playing not to lose. They think they're being responsible, right? I'm not going to push the boundaries. We're not going to lose that opportunity. We're just going to stay here. There's a big difference between protecting what you have and building what you actually want, which is what we're going to be really covering today, right? You already talked about it. It's just dumb when we go into playing not to lose, yet we don't see when we're doing it to ourselves.
It feels safe though, Chad, right?
Yes,
it feels safe. Where, you think about the prevent defense example, like,
it feels safe, right?
It feels safe. And then I also think, there's risk. Like playing to win right now, there's this risk that we give up a really quick touchdown instead of it taking them 4 passes to get down the field and make a touchdown. So I get why I get why we do this. Like I totally understand this safety versus risk. And, we talked about this around money not too long ago, Chad, this idea of like investing being this more risky mindset and saving being this safer mindset, which ultimately over the long period of the time that we're earning income, it ends up feeling safe. But man, we left a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, Bob, there are a lot of quotes attributed to Helen Keller. Right. This is a great one from her where she said security is mostly a superstition. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. I mean, folks, she had a lot of things to overcome. She could have played it safe through her life. She definitely did not in that situation. Bob, are you living a daring adventure or are you not really living at all?
God, I've been thinking a lot about like, I don't know. There's a meme on the internet today, Chad. That's like main character energy. Have you seen these? Have you heard that phrase?
I don't think I've seen these yet. I'm not. My algorithm has not told me I need to see them yet, like you have.
Okay, they're just it's generally people watching somebody else put themselves in the center of the thing that they're filming or whatever, right? And so it's this idea of like, wow, that guy's got the main character energy. But the more that I see these things, the more I'm like, he's got it figured out, right? Like that dude's living life. Like, and you're sitting over here filming him, like mocking him or making a joke out of it, and he's being risky. I don't know.
Tell me a time in your life, Bob, that you have lived the daring adventure of it. What is something you have done that you truly felt alive because you were taking the risk and playing to win?
Look, this calculus changes over the course of your life. I think it's, when you don't have kids and a family and a mortgage and, it maybe is a little bit easier to take risks. That's not to say that you can't or you shouldn't when those scenarios are present. But so for me, I think one of the first times I ever remember feeling this was like going into entrepreneurship. Like I went in, and for me, I was a loan officer, right? But you're 100% commission. You're living and dying by what you do every day when you wake up and go to work. And you don't have to wake up and go to work, by the way. That was something I had to learn early on. I'm like, I don't have to go to work today. I probably should though. But like that feeling of, I'd gone from, let me take us back. This is like 2000, right? I'm fresh out of college. I have a pretty good job. And granted, I worked a lot of overtime, but I was making good money, but I had to show up every day. I had to put in the hours and I made the money and went into this entrepreneur thing, which was somewhat terrifying, lots of risk. But I can remember getting like the first big paycheck, like a paycheck that was larger than the paychecks I was getting. And if I'm being completely blunt and honest, I had not worked as many hours to get that paycheck as I was working before to get the previous paychecks. And I can remember just feeling alive, like feeling like, holy cow, like what? This was way better. But there was a ton I was terrified to leave that job and go. Now, again, I didn't have a mortgage back then. I had a rent, which was, peanuts compared to what we pay for our mortgage today. I didn't have kids to worry about, but I was constrained by the security of having grown up my entire life watching my mom leave and before my parents got divorced, my dad leaving for work every day and that security of having a paycheck that showed up every 2 weeks, regardless of how big or small it was, which in our case, for our family, it was mostly small during those times. But I don't know, that would be my first big, as I look back and thinking like, I didn't pick safety and security there, although I probably had every reason. Now, I think one of the reasons why it was easier for me to do that, Chad, is because I did have some of my best friends who had taken the step before me. And so I was like, all right, if they can do it, I can do it. But
Bob, where do you and your wife go every Halloween?
We go down to Universal Studios in Los Angeles or in Hollywood, and we do the Universal Hollywood Haunt or Haunt.
Would you say that's playing it safe, or that's playing to win and taking the risk?
That's playing to win.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
You're creating memories. You and your wife are going to have memories. There are times you'll sit back and you'll remember 4 years ago, or you'll watch some movie and you'll remember. I'm playing it safe. I'm not going to any haunted houses. That's not my thing. I don't want people jumping out and scaring the living daylight. That's not fun sounding to me. So, folks, I want you to understand, Bob gave you a big life example. Yet every single day, are you playing it safe to not lose, or are you playing to win? So, Bob, here's what I want to do. I made up a list of modes that kind of fall under playing not to lose, and modes that fall under playing to win. They're not personality things, Bob. I sent them over to you, right?
Okay.
Anybody can be any of these. So someone, depending on their fear level, their fatigue level, the clarity they have, like you said, maybe their life situation of, do they have kids right now? Are they dealing with something medical? Do they have a mortgage? Do they not have a mortgage? These things can impact these. These are not your personality. Bob, I sent you the list. Give me the things that are kind of with playing not to lose, so people understand.
I mean, so they're fear-driven protection first.
Okay, are you making your decisions that way, folks?
Yeah, is that your mode? Are you like, oh, if I do that, this could happen? Like, I mean, look, again, we had a whole episode around this on money, I think, and savings, being that, like, I'm protecting these dollars, and in a lot of ways, we've been raised to think that's the smart move. I don't know. Look, I would say, even with the Halloween thing, like, get out there, Chad. It's scary, but it's fun, right? Like,
I don't do roller coasters and I don't need haunted houses. Thank you very much. What else is a mode that kind of falls under that not to lose attitude that people will take sometimes?
I mean, I think that, like, when we show up and our intent is not to make any mistakes.
Right.
I watch this. I'm watching youth sports a lot these days, and that I always find a way to sneak my son's basketball in here. But, like, there's a big difference, and it's fascinating with him, even to watch him in these different environments. Like on the third grade team, AAU team he plays on, where every kid is good and every competition they play against are good. He is often focused on not making mistakes, right? And sometimes that can be your coach, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever worked for a boss or had a coach, Chad, over the years, that, like, when you messed up, they screamed at you. And so then, instead of going out and taking the risky thing or doing the risky move or taking you're like, I don't want to mess up. And so you, like, limit kind of who you become. I'm sure all of us have had a boss like that. If you haven't, like, you're just incredibly lucky or unfortunate to have never had one of those types of bosses, But that would be just that idea of, like, I don't want to make a mistake. And really what it does is it ends up limiting my growth opportunities, limiting my chances to. We learn from our mistakes, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of what we learn in life is based on mistakes. And people, like, I think, like, about Ben, right? Like, he's not worried about making a mistake, right? He's not focused on avoiding them. He realizes they're going to happen. And so he's constantly playing to win. And if those things happen, awesome. We're going to learn from something from it, and we're going to move on.
Yes, mistakes will happen. Failures will occur. The question is, are you making decisions thinking, what if it goes wrong? That is a mode that comes with playing to lose. The flip side of the coin, Bob, to play to win, the mode would be, are your decisions shaped by what could this mean for us? Right? So it's the mode that you're in, and playing to not to lose. We call that logic. We call that I'm being responsible, right? And it's just an avoidance way of saying, I'm not going to take that next step because I'm being responsible. I'm being cautious. I don't know what it is. So, folks, those are some modes of playing not to lose. They're not personality things. They're just a mode you might be in because of your history, because of your energy levels, because of your responsibilities at the moment. If you're feeling any of those things, you're playing not to lose. So, Bob, flip that coin. I already said a decision shaped by what could this mean for us, right? What could go right? That's the mind and the mode of playing to win. What else would fit under that playing to win mindset?
I mean, focused on progress and learning. Like, to me, that's like the that's the anti to focused on avoiding mistakes. Like I realize they're going to happen, and I focus on the progress that we can pull out of that mistake, or the learning opportunity that was presented to us because we didn't do it right the first time.
Okay. Any other modes?
Growth driven, opportunity aware.
Okay.
Like, are you constantly looking at the challenges coming up as an opportunity? Like I see this all the time. People, I coach a lot of teams, Chad, a lot of high powered real estate teams, business owners that have, and I'll see all the time where they will frame things as we're not doing it as good as we should be.
Right.
We're not, there's this, and they're almost saying it up front, I think, to like stay small.
Yes.
Because I believe that I'm like, look, first off, you have an amazing business. You've built an amazing business. Yes, there are things that you're not doing, but if you were doing everything properly, like there would be no room for growth in this thing. There would be no opportunities. I want you to look at this as like an opportunity. Right. And I'm constantly having this conversation. Like we do these scorecard things, and they, these, especially like people that are really driven, they'll show up and they'll be like, oh, but I know my score is not that good, but, and they've got the logic, right? That they're focused on just the fact that they didn't do it right. And I'm like, no. Like, I want you to focus on the idea that there is progress we could make here. There's things we could learn from this, or even, and I'll constantly try to drive them to like, what if we did it right? Like, what could the outcomes be, right? It's very common to focus on that, like the negative side. And it's like, yeah, we didn't do all this, but I'm like, that's okay. What about the possible outcomes if you thought of this as an opportunity? And a lot of them don't. They just see the things they didn't do in there. And that continues to make you small, I think.
Absolutely. Right. And it's amazing, Bob, how many of them are huge successes.
Yeah.
Yet they're still playing not to lose. And it's because, well, I've gained all this ground and now I'm comfortable, right? Now my income matches this. Now I have that. I can do this. Okay. Yet what would it look like if you went even farther, right? What's that next? We're not saying you have to be bigger. Yet you can always be finding new opportunities. You can always be finding new experiences to have. You can always be improving instead of just saying status quo is perfect. Let's stay here. Because Bob, here's what we know. The great white shark, the greatest killing machine on the planet, cannot go backwards. It has to go forward. It can't stop and it can't go backwards, or it stops breathing. It needs the water flowing over its gills. If they're playing not to lose, what ends up happening? That's basically them stopping and saying, okay, we're not going to lose. They might as well be dying.
So there's been, Chad, a number of studies. There's been like some behavioral economists, and it's pretty commonly agreed that humans are wired to prioritize loss avoidance, like to avoid losing things, or to avoid failures, or to avoid pain over gain.
Yes.
Losses feel roughly twice as painful as gains feel good. Can I, and I think I've shared this with you. I don't know. I stopped watching live sports recently. Did I tell you that? Have I told you that?
No.
Okay, so I will go. In fact, tomorrow night, I'm going to go to the Seahawks game, and I'm going to be in the crowd watching it with 65,000 other Seahawks fans.
I'm sorry,
and
for
I'm
you
totally good doing that. And I will watch live sports if my team is not involved. But about 2 years ago, I figured out that when I would sit down and watch a Seahawks game and we'd win, I never felt as good as I felt bad when I watched that game and we'd lose. And it got to this point, and look, I have kids and they're watching their dad watch the football game and we're losing, and I'm screaming at the TV and I'm acting a fool, and I'm like not the person I want to be in front of my boys. And then I realized, like, even at the end, if we won, I didn't even feel that great. I was just like, okay, phew, we won. But when we lost, I would be like irritated the rest of the day. And sometimes it would like ruin my relationship with my kids for that day, which is silly and stupid. And I just realized, I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And I've stopped watching my teams play sports. Now I did, when the Mariners got into the American League Championship this year, I did watch a couple of those games, but I think the reality is I ended up regretting it. No, I don't know. Our friend Kevin and he's like, I'm not even sure I can be friends with you anymore. Like, how could you be saying this? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just a season of my life where right now the gains, they don't feel as good as the losses. So in this particular environment, I am playing small as a sports fan right now. I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. But again, I do get that outlet because I'm going to go to the game tomorrow with my buddies and maybe probably be more disappointed than if we lose than I will be happy if we win.
That's a great point of playing small or not to lose versus playing to win and going all in. I'm a Blue Jays fan, right? We had this conversation during the playoffs. I'm not bringing it up for that reason. I didn't watch them all year, mainly because I live in Florida and they're not televised. So I didn't watch most of them. I haven't watched baseball on TV in years. I turned on the games for the World Series and I watched those 7 games. Bob, I've been playing small as a sports fan, playing not to lose my heart as a sports fan. Yeah. When the Blue Jays lost in the horrific way they ended up losing, which they shouldn't have lost, my friends were like, they're still screaming about, Bob, it's been 2 months. And they're still sending texts every now and then that says, can you believe how he didn't make that play? Can you believe how he did? I'm like, guys, right? But they were playing to win. They were all in on the team. And if the team had won, they would have, we won, right? To me, I played small. I protected myself not to get hurt. And you're right. We are hardwired, as Bob said, to prioritize loss avoidance over gain happening because we don't want to be in that position where people point and laugh. We don't want to be in that position where people say, do you remember such and such? Because we become the big failure story that was in there. We don't want people to know. We don't want to be bankrupt. We don't want to have to start over. Folks, it's liberating. I played big. I played to win. My world fell apart. I truly found out who I was as I was then able to start playing to win a different game because I realized I was playing the wrong game. All right, Bob, let's go through some of the areas. We talk here about health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. So let's talk about some of those key areas that we often talk about and playing not to lose versus playing to win. Pick an area and let's go there.
I want to go to leadership because I see this on a lot of the folks that I coach and work with, specifically around our people, right? Sometimes we avoid tough conversations because we don't want to lose that person, Chad. Yep. When the reality is, if we could find a way to, shout out to our last guest, tactfully have that conversation with them, it would probably lead to a lot of growth for them. And maybe I could iron out that issue that's been building up, for 6 months or a year or 3 years. So I see it all the time when we're leading people where we play small because we don't want to, we don't want to have the hard conversation, Chad. We don't want to, lose that person. Like we feel like we could lose them. Yep. I think the flip side is, take a page out of Ben Kinney's book. Like you run to the issue, right? To like the winners, the people that from a leadership perspective are winning, they're not going to avoid tough conversations. They run to them. They see them and they know the earlier I get to it, the faster we can course correct and the less animosity's been built up on that thing over time.
Yeah. And Bob, we talked about money one of our last recent episodes, right? Playing small, playing not to lose with money. That's hoarding our cash, right? That's with the fear of investing that we talked about on that episode. That's waiting for certainty. Bob Stewart, if there's one thing I can guarantee you when it comes to money, there's never going to be certainty, right? Never, right? We can say the stock market has always gone up, yet there are periods where it goes down, folks, right? So there's never going to be true certainty. Playing to win, though, we have some reserves balanced, yet we have that long-term growth mindset. We are looking to the future. We are saying, I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to buy that stock. I'm going to invest in that company. I'm going to put my money into blank because of the return that could come from it. All right. So just to pick two areas and attack them. Obviously, Bob, I love the health conversation, right?
What does that look like, Chad? Like, where do you think people are playing small on their health or maybe
they don't want to be hurt? They don't want to, I'm going to get hurt doing that, or it's going to hurt lifting that, or it's going to hurt doing that. Hurt is the word I hear all the time from people, right? It's going to hurt. My knees are going to hurt running. I'm going to hurt myself. So I'm playing not to lose. Okay. I don't want to chance getting hurt versus playing to win, which just means understanding how to train, how to recover, and being consistent about it. By doing it correctly. Will you get hurt? Sure. I've been hurt for the last 4 weeks. I'm in recovery right now. Yet I've been doing this for a long period of time that I've been playing to win for my health. So it's a small percentage of time that I've actually been in a recovery situation, folks, but your health is going to last you forever, right? There's the saying, I won't get it wrong. You can either, work on your health now, or you're going to be working for your health later, right? Something along those lines. It's that playing not to win versus going out there and full on playing to win instead of playing not to lose.
I mean, this economy, there's another lane here, maybe your career. I think so many of us were raised by parents or influenced by grandparents that they just stayed in their roles for a very long time. It probably, there's a lot of studies out there to suggest that doing that limits your income potential over your life, and that actually changing jobs is a way that you can, increase your income. But a lot of people in their career, they just stay in that role for too long because the safety of that paycheck every 2 weeks or every week or however often you get it, versus, stretching myself a little bit versus trying to take that next step on the ladder versus, putting myself out there, Chad, where I'm a little bit more visible, and now my work might come under more scrutiny, but it gives me more opportunities, right? That's playing to win. I see a lot of people. It's actually a conversation I have with people who join our organization. I'll just tell them, I'll say, listen, it's kind of a wide open playing field here. And there's two ways that can play out. One, you can hide and probably just do your little job, and you could have a long, successful career here, but you'll likely not move too far from that job you started at. Or you can dive in, put yourself out there, risk making some mistakes and being seen. And it might feel scary, but nobody in our organization is going to stop you from doing something big.
Right.
And I've been here 10 years with Ben now. And as I look around in our world, there's plenty of examples of people that started here, stayed small, and are still cranking away, not too far from that role they started in. And there's other examples of people around here that are way far away from what they started doing for us, but doing big things in our world. I think Roberto is one of those guys who he's taken on our entire AI development just simply because he was nobody else is doing this. I'm stepping in here and doing this. He plays
playing
big.
To win, right?
Yeah, he plays
playing
big.
To win versus people that are playing not
By the
to
way,
lose.
there's been some things that he stumbled and made mistakes on, and probably some AI stuff that cost the company some money, and he had to go to Ben and go, that one didn't work. But because Ben knows he's willing to take those risks, he does have some examples, many, by the way, of things that worked well. He can make those mistakes, but he's able to make them because he decided, I'm going to step into this opportunity.
Yeah. All right, Bob, if I asked you a question, I'm not going to put you on this. I'm not going to actually ask you this question. If I asked you to tell me who the greatest player of all time was in every sport, we could argue football all day long. We could argue basketball. I don't really think so. Yet people will argue basketball. You can definitely argue baseball 100%. The one major sport you can't argue, in my opinion, it's hockey.
Wayne Gretzky.
There is no argument that Wayne Gretzky is the greatest of all time. And he has that amazing quote that you've heard. You might not have known it was Wayne, who said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, Bob, let's help our audience as we bring this to the end shift from playing not to lose to a mindset of playing to win, or going from defense to offense. Give me one shift that people can start doing to change defense into offense.
I mean, we referenced this earlier, like changing from what if this fails to what if this works.
Yeah.
Like
that's a good one, folks.
Look, and maybe I started on our kind of entrepreneurial journey at a time when we were young and dumb and didn't know enough to have as much fear as we.
Is that what you're getting?
Yeah, maybe, but we didn't have enough experience to even have the fear. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so we always looked at it from the perspective of what if this works. And but as you go further and further and you have more and you do start to, it gets real easy because there've definitely been times throughout. I remember the first time we launched a revenue producing opportunity, we were very much in a what if this fails mindset. And by the way, that thing, it didn't necessarily fail early, but it didn't have the legs that it could have had we been in a what if this works? Because when you think, what if this works? Your brain's already thinking about the next steps beyond the thing. But like in our case, we were thinking, what if this fails? Because if it did fail, we were going to be out of money, and it didn't end up failing there. It failed a little bit later, but we didn't have the next steps because all we were thinking about is what if this fails, which means we'd only focused on the next step. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Bob, nobody goes up to the counter to buy their lottery ticket for Powerball right now saying, well, what if this fails? Right? They're saying, what if this works? And they're dreaming about the $1.2 billion and what they would do with it.
Chad, the lottery is a tax on people that are bad at math. They probably should be thinking, what if this fails?
Okay. 292 to 1, 292 million to 1. Those odds are there, Bob. I'm winning the billions. Look, and if you win it out there, folks, Bob and Chad are happy to take donations, and we will just follow you around and podcast the rest of your life from there. Okay, let's go another defense to offense shift, Bob. Change their mind, audience, from I can't afford to lose to I can afford to learn.
Always.
I can't afford to lose to I can afford to learn. And if we shift our mindset for that, it's okay if things go wrong, because as long as we're learning, we are going to now rebound stronger and better. Yes, we understand in some situations, we discuss this, you're in certain times of your life, mortgage, kids, whatever it is. Okay, you can still afford to lose something, right? It's not you're going to lose your whole life. Don't bet it all, okay? Yet I can afford to learn is going to take you into an offensive mindset. Bob, give us another. We came up with a few.
I need certainty becoming, I need clarity on the next step. I see this all the time. Like there's that type of individual out there that just can't move on until they know this thing's going to work. And when you're playing big, you don't always know that thing's going to work. Right. But you can always know what the next thing you need to do to try to get that thing to work is.
There you go.
So I and by the way, I think this bleeds perfectly into the next one, which is moving from perfection to progress.
Yes.
I mean, this is essentially what that is. It's saying, I need certainty. This has got to be perfect. No, it doesn't. You just need to make some progress. And generally that's because you understand the clarity of what the next step is.
Sure. Just think about the companies that we have seen. Just take Apple, right? They made progress. Were they perfect with everything they released? No. Have they, right? No. Have they done everything? No. Yet they always made progress. Now you look at it from start to finish and you go, wow, that iPhone thing, that's perfection or whatever. Yet that's not how it came about. Every year they're releasing a new one. Yes, because they want to sell you something. You don't have to buy it. Yet it's because they're getting the phone better and better and better, because when they first launched it, half this technology wasn't even available to them yet. Okay? Folks, think about this. Playing to win doesn't mean you're reckless. It means you're intentional, you're informed, and you're moving forward. And that is the wish from Win Make Give to you into the next year, next week, next day of your life. We wish that you win because you played to win, not because you played not to lose and something just went right somehow that you weren't even prepared for.
I am, by the way, going to continue to play not to lose on my sports teams. I just can't. My heart can't take it right now at this stage of my life. But I will be at the Seahawks game tomorrow, Chad, rooting on my boys.
Folks, just so you know, tomorrow, by the time you hear this, is they've already lost and been eliminated.
No. Well,
Bob,
I'll be cranky next week if that's
there. You go. Play to win, audience. That's who you are. We know it, and you know it. Until our next episode, as always, do good.